I knew I was on a spiritual awakening because even now to this day, there's no cap to a spiritual awakening, right? So anytime I have an experience, some way I know that that's leading to something else. The type of beings and energies that I work with now, I think that makes it apparent that my journey has been one of this, where I've had an experience and it led to something else, had another experience where it led to something else. This particular moment that I had, something came through and they were communicating to me telepathically, telling me exactly who they were. So the first word that comes through immediately when I connect to your energy is
You're watching Seeds of Awakening, your home for higher frequency conversations. I'm your host, Amani Channel. I have a great conversation for you scheduled today with a transdimensional psychic medium. What even does that mean? Well, I'm going to explain all those things in just a second. First, make sure you hit that like, subscribe to the channel, or hit the notification bell. And the best thing you can do is just smash the like if you like this content. That will help others find this interview. Alright, so I have a transdimensional psychic medium. She's also a spiritual manifestation coach and an otherworldly channel. What even does that mean, and how did she get to this point? Well, she's going to explain her entire life's journey in just a second. Her name is Raw Honey Bliss. I met her on YouTube. Let's bring her in now. Alright, so Bliss, welcome to Seeds of Awakening. Thanks so much for taking some time this afternoon.
thank you for having me.
Yes, let's get started in your backstory. Where are you from? How are you raised? What's your background?
So background is as far as either like religion or spirituality is concerned.
Even just like where you from, like where you from originally, where you raised, where
Born and raised in California. I was
okay.
born and raised in California. I've been in California my entire life. I now reside in South Carolina, but born and raised in California.
What part? Southern California?
Southern California, yes.
Okay,
That's where I
I'm
was
from the Bay
born.
Area. That's what I was asking. So I'm from the Bay, so I know
Okay,
a little bit
nice.
about West Side, definitely.
Okay, nice.
So were you raised in a religious environment? How are you raised religiously or spiritually?
So I definitely wasn't raised purely religiously. I would say as a child, I did go to church.
Okay.
And during that time of going to church, I was in the church choirs, going to Bible studies, things of that nature. But I did grow up in a household where I was exposed to other ways of looking at life, other life perspectives. So during the time that I was going to church, I was also introduced to the law of attraction, the law of assumption. So I would say I had a pretty open childhood as far as spirituality and religion are concerned. I wasn't boxed in.
So it wasn't like a strict you go to church on Sundays only environment.
What was that?
It wasn't a strict go to church on
No,
Sundays only.
definitely not strict. I would say my household and my way of growing up was more free. I was
Okay.
able to make my own decisions about what life was to me.
So is there growing up, did you get like spiritual inclinations, or when did you decide to like expand beyond Christianity or religion?
So it came a certain age where I started to branch out mentally, emotionally, spiritually. And when I was younger, I was introduced to the science of mind. So during that time, I was going to, different spaces where those things were discussed. And of course, when I was younger, I didn't understand it 100%, but it did unlock something in me. You know, when you don't quite understand something, but you know that it's important,
Mm-mm.
that's what it was for me. And around that time, that's when I definitely knew something more was going on out there. But I would say since I was little, I've always known that I was communicating with something. And that's since I was born.
So explain what the science of mind is. 'Cause I'm not all the way familiar with the science of mind.
So, science of mind You mean like what were some of the things that were exposed to me when I
Yeah,
was?
is it a teaching? Is it a philosophy? Like, what is it? Yeah, I'm just.
Right. So Science of Mind, it is more of like a teaching. It is more of a philosophy. Within the core of Science of Mind, it's an open way of looking at the world. In general, it allows you to not box yourself in. It talks more of thought and how your thought creates your experiences, similar to law of attraction and law of assumption, but there is more of like a scientific way of looking at it. So with Science of Mind, that was my deeper introduction into the law of attraction and how my thoughts are bringing my experiences to me.
And how were you when you got involved in this way of thinking?
So as I said, since I was born, I always knew I was connected to something more. But as I became more aware of it, I would say 10, 11, pretty young.
So pretty young age. And then as you got in your teenage years, what happened? How'd your story change then?
I did have a specific experience around the age of 19 years old. During that time, I came across a documentary called The Shift by Wayne Dyer. He is someone that was sort of like a grounding force for me
Okay.
with spirituality. And I watched his documentary, The Shift. Right after I watched that, something inside me said, I have to go see this man in person. I have to go see what he has to say. I just felt drawn. So I went online, and during that time, they were having Hay House events. I'm not sure if you're familiar with Hay House, but
The
during that
publisher?
time, they were having these events. And he was going to be at one of them. So I ended up signing up. Me and my mother, we went, and there were so many heavy hitters there that aren't alive with us now, but Louise Hay was actually alive during that time, and she was there. People like Doreen Virtue was there back when she was more involved with spirituality, and some other heavy hitters. Wayne Dyer was there. And at that event, that is when my life changed. That is when I met people who were into the angelic realm. I met people who were psychics and mediums. And that was really like my first time being drenched in that realm. I was encapsulated in that realm. And at that event, I just knew that my life was not going to be the same after that. I came across tarot, oracle, and after that event, I ended up buying my first deck. So that event changed everything for me.
So was it like, were you activated in some kind of way?
Was
How
I
did you
what?
feel? Activated?
That event activated. And it's interesting you say that because now I'm thinking about it, that's 100% the word. It was an activation for me. I went to, at that event, they have breakout sessions. And on one of the days that I was there, they had a specific breakout section where it was these two females. I believe they were sisters or related in some way, and they both communicated with the angelic realm. And they had us separate into groups. And when they did that, the group that I was in, we all had to take turns closing our eyes and visualizing what we saw for each person in the group. And when it came time for everyone to close their eyes and tell me what they visualized about me, by the time they got done visualizing and everyone went down the line to say what they saw for me, every single person in that group saw the same thing for me. And they said that they saw many people coming to me sort of with their hands outstretched, and I'm giving them guidance and advice about their life purpose and things of that nature. And during that time, I definitely was not doing that, not in the capacity that they told me I was going to be. But looking back, it just lets me know how much of an activation that event was for me.
So what were you doing at the time of this, before the activation? What were you going to do secularly? Did you have a career in mind? Did you have another path you were on?
What was going on specifically with me around that
Yeah,
time?
did you have another path? Did you have a career that you were going into?
So during that time, I was actually in college.
Okay.
I was in college and getting my associates, and I had one more semester left. So at the time I went to the event, I had one semester to finish up, and I wasn't sure exactly what I wanted to do at the time that I was in college, I would say I was in more of a, I'm here because, you know, maybe it's the right thing to do. It gives me something to do. I'm really smart, very intellectual, book smart, whatever you want to call it. So school was very easy for me. But when I went to that event, I actually contemplated not going back to school
Wow.
after that event, because I knew after that event, okay, I don't know what this is, but I know that I need to continue with this. But I did end up going back to school that following week and ended up getting my degree. And after that, everything changed.
In what way?
I started focusing a lot on my writing. I am a writer. I started focusing a lot on my writing, and I started talking more about my spirituality. I started talking more about my awakening. And I do have a Tumblr, and on Tumblr, that was the space where I really started to go deeper into my spirituality and just sharing my thoughts, because Tumblr is open-minded in that way.
Mm-hmm.
And I was received in ways I didn't think I was going to be, and I was just being myself. And eventually, Raw Honey Bliss came, and here we are. Here we are now.
So when did you start practicing what you were learning, or did you like have a mentor at the time?
No, I am 100% self-taught. Looking back, I threw myself into watching YouTube videos, watching documentaries. Of course, I had people that I looked up to spiritually, not in my own personal life when it comes to someone who was on the path that I knew I was going down, like professionally wise. So, of course, I was on YouTube. I read tons of books like Conversations with God, read that. But no, I would say I'm self taught and 100% led by my guides.
So you said you were led by your guides. Do you have a certain experience with your guides at some point, or have a communication with them, or have a realization that you had a higher self?
Yes, that's when my pendulum comes in, because there was a time where I started learning more about pendulums and I wasn't using one at the time.
Mm-hmm.
I saw a certain video on YouTube, and after that video, something inside me said, I want to talk to my grandma and I want to use this pendulum. This was years before me identifying as a transdimensional psychic medium in a professional way. This was before me stepping into that more professional realm, the way that I am now. And that night, I said, I want to talk to my grandma. And something just said, make your own pendulum right now. So I took a piece of angel aura quartz. It was about this big. And I took a string of floss, tied the floss to the crystal. I held it up like this and I said, Grandma. And as soon as I did that,
Sort of
it
swinging.
moved. It moved. I put the pendulum down, ran out of the room. I came back, and that changed everything for me as well. I've had moments looking back where there were specific moments that changed everything for me. It's been a progression. Something will happen to me and it takes me to the next level. I have another life-changing moment and it takes me to the next level. But that pendulum moment right there was the moment that I knew, oh, I can really just communicate with spirits like this.
Mm-hmm.
That was before I dove deeper into not depending on the pendulum. But at that time, when I started getting into the pendulum, that was the main way I was communicating with my ancestors, with family members, with guides.
So you're going through a series of awakening events, I guess, like you had the
Yes.
event you went to, you had the pendulum event. What happens next?
This is where extraterrestrials came into the picture.
Mm, okay. Let's talk about those.
I had an experience where, and everything, a lot of the life transformative moments I've had have been in my room, wherever I'm living at the time. It's happening in my room. One day I was in my room and in a previous residence. And something came through. I knew in the moment that it was extraterrestrial in nature. And to put it out there, I do resonate as, I would say, an extraterrestrial hybrid being myself. I'm much more open about it today. I would say fully open about it today. Back then, I did know something was different about me, but I wasn't, I would say, consciously communicating and interacting with ETs.
Okay.
So this particular moment that I had, something came through and they were communicating to me telepathically, telling me exactly who they were. I ended up taking out a notepad, a pen, and I started automatically writing. It was this ET telling me its name, its origin, what it was here for, why it decided to come through the way that it did now. It came through in a very powerful way, so much so that I introduced this being to some of my family members, and this same being came through heavily. I had family members telling me, Bliss, you need to tell them to calm down. Their energy is a lot right now. Mm-hmm. But this being was just very excited because I was now introducing this being to the people who are most important to me. That was another event that I had.
Does this being have a name?
Yes, his name is X.
And do you still communicate? Do you channel this being, or what kind of information was he giving you?
He is more of an everyday extraterrestrial guide that has been with me since the first day he appeared. Okay. That was years ago. And he's going to be with me forever. We have a lot of telepathic communication. Mm-hmm. There have been experiences where he'll come through in ways that make it so obvious that I am communicating with him and that he really is with me. And of course, that's kind of going down a whole different path.
Definitely, yeah.
To bring it back, that was an experience I had during my awakening. So with all of these events, this series of awakenings, it's opened up my mind even more. Started off with the angelic realm, opened up to speaking with past family members, spirit guides, to extraterrestrials, other types of beings. So like you said, it's been a series of awakenings, mm-hmm. and it's been a progression. This is how it's been for me.
So did that open you up to other entities then, or what happened after you sort of had the experience with X, this initial experience with X?
Right. So communicating with X, with all the years that I have been communicating with him, just from his teachings alone and what he's talked to me about regarding my origin and other beings, I have been able to communicate with extraterrestrial beings, but I've also been able to communicate with beings such as the Fae. I've had experiences with them. Being connected to extraterrestrials, it did open me up to more of a variety of non-human beings.
Now, some folks are going to see this interview, they're going to be like, wait a minute, she's channeling beings, she's communicating with demons, this isn't normal, like, what's going on with this? What would you say to those people?
Wait, did you say demons?
Yeah, for people who see this interview, they're like, wait a minute, she's communicating.
Okay.
Right, yeah.
Right. So I just wanted to confirm. Like, did he say demons?
So yeah, so for people who didn't have a traditional, religious background, right, they might think that you're communicating with negative entities. Yep. So what would you say to them?
I would say it would be helpful for them to go through their own process. Everyone's process is different. I know I do a lot of stepping outside of myself energetically to look at myself. And when I step out of myself energetically to look at myself, I can see how if I would not have gone down this path myself, I could probably see how I could have more of a skeptical or negative outlook on these types of things if I wasn't on the path.
Right.
That's what I would tell them.
Gotcha. So when did you start your business? When did you start working with others?
I started offering readings, looking back, very cheap prices. Started offering readings. And at the time, I was offering typed readings because, as I said, I am a writer. So I was offering typed readings and online. People were resonating with them.
Mhm.
People were 100% resonating with them. And when I started doing these typed readings, I wasn't consciously thinking to myself, this is a business. This is going to be business. I just knew I want to offer these readings, and I started off offering free readings. But it got to a point where I said, I need to charge something. And that goes back to equal energy exchange. If you're offering something and the energy you get back makes you feel imbalanced, there's something off with that energy exchange. It got to a point where I was spiritually led and guided, very easy download, charge. That's what I did. When I did that, that led me down a whole other journey. Now, of course, currently I do my one-on-one sessions that I love. I love what I do. Starting out, it looks a lot different now than it did before, but that foundation is still the same, which is when you know you have something and you know that you're meant to be using that gift as part of your mission and your purpose, and you know that you are meant to share that with the world, it will get to a point where spirit will guide you in terms of how to turn that into a professional career, how to turn that into a long-term sustainable business. And that's the path that I've been on. It's been 100% spirit led, as well as coming across people who show up to help you make it an even stronger foundation.
Hmm.
That has been my path with my services, my offerings, and what I do now as a professional.
Gotcha. So explain all your services that you offer to people. How do you help people who come to you? How do people find you?
People can find me in many ways. So, as I said, I do go by Raw Honey Bliss. I do have my YouTube channel, Raw Honey Bliss, Instagram,
That's how I found you.
TikTok. Yes. I describe them as our beautiful, loving, thriving community. We're continuously growing and evolving and expanding over there. That's what that community is all about, my Raw Honey Bliss community. More recently, I've stepped into the role as an otherworldly channel for a collective of beings that go by the Wise Ones, also known as Two. This is a new journey that I'm on as far as being public with this and offering services that are in alignment for me to show up to my clients in that manner. But yes, I do offer my one-on-one spiritual guidance sessions, my one-on-one spiritual alignment sessions. I'm also a spiritual manifestation coach, so I do offer my coaching sessions that are
Mhm.
based more on the law of assumption and those higher spiritual teachings
Yep.
to manifest the specific outcomes that you want on a 3D level. So that's how I'm offering my gifts and what I came to this world with.
When you first had your first spiritual experience, did you know that you were on a spiritual awakening, or was it kind of just like you had this experience and it was what it was?
I knew I was on a spiritual awakening because even now to this day, there's no cap to a spiritual awakening, right? So anytime I have an experience, some way I know that that's leading to something else. I've
Mhm.
never had an experience where I said, this is it.
The rabbit
It's
hole just keeps getting deep.
always,
The rabbit hole just keeps getting deeper.
it just keeps getting deeper. And I think with the type of beings and energies that I work with now, I think that makes it apparent that my journey has been one of this, where I've had an experience and it led to something else, had another experience where it led to something else. If it didn't, I don't think I'd be working with the types of beings that I currently work with. I had to go through those experiences to now be at the point where I am working with spirits, where I am working with past loved ones. I am working with the angelic realm and with fairies and extraterrestrials, hybrid beings. All of those experiences led to getting to this point.
Where is where does all this like information, or where is it going? Like, where is it going for? Where is it leading you to? Where are you headed? I guess that's the question I want to ask.
Where I'm headed is where I currently am, and where I currently am is guiding me to where I'm headed. So
Gotcha.
even with me being where I am right now, I feel whole. I feel complete. And I also know that there's more. And that makes me feel complete liberation. When people ask me, like, do you know your purpose? I say, yes, I'm very clear on what my purpose is. And just knowing that makes me feel good and planted where I'm at, but not stagnant. I'm grounded, but I'm flowing. So even in this moment, I know there's more.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's always more. But even as I know there's more, I feel that more in the present. So I'm allowed to just be here.
I think for folks who are outside of this sort of spiritual environment, this might sound like Greek to them, but it makes a lot of sense to me. But how do you like speak to the common person who isn't as versed in the spiritual terminology?
So, one thing I love about what I do for a living and how I am called to show up with my purpose is that spirit has me placed on this earth in a manner that I can describe these more higher spiritual complex ideas, topics in a very digestible way,
Mm-hmm.
in a very 3D based way. And that's why it is so important that I do show up in my role as a spiritual manifestation coach, because that realm is more 3D based.
It's very relatable, yeah.
It's very relatable. That's what's so important about me being a manifestation coach, because I get to take these topics up here and I get to make it 3D. So when someone comes to me and they're talking to me about something, every time they leave their interaction with me, they always give me the same look and say, I didn't get it before, but I get it now. I
Mm-hmm.
actually get it now. And it always ends with, I'm going to go home and do this now. I'm going to go home and do this, because I am very much so, give me the 3D tools so I can apply this higher topic, this higher knowledge in a grounded, practical way, so I can see physical 3D results, because that's what people want to see. Even when you're dealing with spirituality, you still want to know, how does this spirituality apply to my 3D human life?
Mm-hmm.
And I have the gift of that, of helping people through that process.
Understand how that information relates to them and how they can apply it to their own lives.
100%. And
Mm-hmm.
with me being a transdimensional psychic medium, me having those gifts, I'm able to see into that person's realm. When a person stands in front of me, I tell people it's almost like I'm not even seeing a human. I'm like looking at a translucent energy, almost like a light body. And I can clearly see, this is how they need to be talked to. This is how they need to be energetically guided and led. The words will just come through me because I allow spirit to work through me. So yes, I am a 3D human body, but spiritually, I'm a vessel. So when someone comes to me, I don't have to question, how am I meant to help this person? If that person is coming to me, it's because I know I'm meant to help that person.
So my next question obviously is, what do you see when you look at me? Do you see the energy, or do you see a person? What do you see when you look at me through the
So
screen?
of course I see a 3D human body. I have to help me stay present in the shared. And at the same time, it's an energy body. So when I look at a person, immediately, even as I'm talking to you, immediately when you come on screen, it's okay. This is what's going on with the past. This is what's going on with the present. This is what's going on in the future. This is what he came to in this present incarnation. These are some of the things he's working on. These are some of the things he needs to alter. These are some of the messages we've been trying to get across to him that he's not listening to. All of that information comes through and more pretty much instantly for me. So when I say I never have to worry when someone comes to me and they want to know, how can you help me when I don't really understand all of that on the level that you do? It's easy to ground. It's easy to ground.
So I gotta ask, do you have any specific messages for me right now? I'm just curious. Is there anything that I should know about
Ooh.
myself?
Okay, so real quick.
Put you on the spot.
Right. So the first word that comes through immediately when I connect to your energy is business. That's the first word that comes to me, but they're giving me a certain feeling around the word business because what they're telling me is that you're in a period of a transition. So I can visually see you trying to think about your next move. And it doesn't really feel like it's in a limbo state per se, but there is sort of like, I see almost like a bubble of waiting. Not in a way that's stagnant, but I can see that there's thoughts around business, thoughts around your next move, and you are being watched spiritually, and your guides are communicating to you about how to move forward. But it also seems like they're going with your pace because your pace doesn't seem fast. And I think that's where this period of waiting comes through, not because you're stagnant, but because you have a certain pace. And your pace is not slow, it's rather just your pace. So even if on the outside, someone is looking at you and saying, hey, why haven't you done this? Why haven't you done this? The way that your energy works is that you have a period of stillness before you take your next move. And I feel that you're in that period right now.
Thank you very
So
much. Oh, did I cut you off?
does
I'm
that
sorry.
resonate?
Sorry, did I cut you off?
How did that land for you?
Yeah, I received that. I take that, definitely. So let me ask you this. If someone was to ask you what your definition of a spiritual awakening is, how would you explain that to someone?
The definition of a spiritual awakening, if I can give it one word, which I will, because I will be on here for hours talking about what a spiritual awakening is, and
Yeah,
that will be not even
these are hot seat questions, so no
Mhm.
hours.
Liberation.
Mhm.
A spiritual awakening is liberation. That is the particular word that I would use. And for me, that's deeper than freedom. There is a certain feeling that comes with the word liberation. If you allow yourself to just sit in that, it's similar to the feeling that particular people get when they're sitting in front of the ocean and they can't quite describe the feeling, but it's a feeling that makes them not want to leave from looking at the waves.
Mhm.
It's a spaciousness. There's no heaviness there. I believe that a spiritual awakening is a process that guides you to that feeling. And as we talked about earlier, there is no cap. So even if you feel you've reached that moment, there's deeper meaning within that feeling of liberation. But if I had to give a spiritual awakening one word, I would say liberation, because that is why you are going through the series of awakenings. That is why you are having certain events take place in your life, all for the purpose of putting you in that space of liberation. When you get to that space, life is easy. When you get to that space, you don't have to think or wonder about your next move because everything will just align from that space. And spirituality and your awakening takes you through that process.
I like that answer. I've never had someone answer with that answer before, so I like that. Okay, the next question is, what's the most valuable lesson have you learned in life so far?
What's what?
What's the most valuable and important lesson have you learned in life so
Hmm.
far?
Not to put a cap on anything. I feel that a lot of my answers are connected to not limiting oneself. That is a valuable lesson that I've learned because When I look at everything that I've learned, it's all been tied to don't limit yourself, because if you would have gone into that limiting yourself, you wouldn't have learned that lesson. You wouldn't have even found a lesson to be learned from that if you had limited yourself. So a valuable, important lesson I've learned is to not limit myself. That is how I'm able to receive a lesson in itself, by not limiting myself. So that's my answer.
Last question. If you're going to give advice to someone who's going through a spiritual awakening, what would it be?
Be open, which again is connected to not limiting yourself. But I would say be open. Being open is what will allow you to work with energies that are supportive, that maybe you did not know were with you in the past. But by being open, that is how you create the space for those energies to come through. That is how you create the space for support and unconditional love to come through, by being open. I didn't get where I am today by being closed off. I'll say that much.
Right. Where do you feel like mankind is going as a whole? Where are we going as a society? There's a lot of divisiveness right now, political. There's a lot of war strife going on. Where are we going on? Where are we going as humanity, do you feel? Where's humanity going?
I love this question. And as I said earlier, I am an otherworldly channel for a collective of beings that go by two, the wise ones. Although it's been about a 2-year process that they've been integrating their energy into mine, now that I am public as this channel, they have come to me at a time where they're publicly making it known what's going to be happening with humanity, by way of speaking through me, of course, as the channel. They've already let me know some of the things that are to come. And I would say one important thing that we can look forward to is getting back to communicating with love and kindness. The way that they describe it is that is something that we've lost touch with, and that is a space that we are now coming back to. There are some rather extraterrestrial beings that are going to be making that known, that that is a primary focus. It's an energy of we've lost focus, and now we are on the path to bringing ourselves back to what really matters.
Mm-hmm.
So when you say, where are we headed? One thing that I can say is we're headed back to kindness. That's where we're headed back to. And I think it's important to sit with that, to know how significant that is.
Honey Bliss, where can people find you if they want to find you or connect with you online?
They can find me everywhere. They can find me on YouTube, TikTok, Instagram at Raw Honey Bliss. I recently started a new community for Starseeds, hybrids, cosmic souls, called Starseed Vibration. I just recently launched my new YouTube community under that, Starseed Vibration. I also have a TikTok and an Instagram for Starseed Vibration, where in that community, I do talk more on extraterrestrial beings. I do talk more on hybrid beings, because we definitely have some hybrid beings that are making themselves known to the public at this time. So Starseed Vibration is a space where I dive deeper into that, and also offer energetic transmissions, channelings from two, things of that nature. But yeah, I'm everywhere online. I'm not hiding.
I'm so glad we got a chance to have this conversation and learn more about you and your background and learn where we're going. Thanks so much, Bliss.
Thank you.